The weekend is not ruining your fat loss. The 5-day spiral you launch into every Monday morning because you think it did, that is what is ruining your fat loss. You spend Friday to Sunday eating like a normal person, wake up Monday, step on the scale, see it jump 3 pounds, declare yourself a complete failure, and either starve yourself for the next 5 days or eat your feelings through Tuesday. Both responses do more damage than the weekend ever did. What we want to show you today is that the Monday number is mostly a lie. The real damage is far smaller than it looks. And 3 specific adjustments are all it takes to keep fat loss moving without giving up a single thing you actually enjoy about your weekend. Including the pizza, including the drinks, yes, including brunch. Here's the part that should make you feel considerably better before we get into any of it. That 3-pound jump on the scale Monday morning is not 3 pounds of fat, not even close. It is water, glycogen, and sodium doing a very convincing impression of fat. Each gram of carbohydrate your body stores as glycogen binds to roughly 3 to 4 grams of water. So 200 grams of carbs from a big Saturday, which is extremely easy to hit between the pasta, the bread basket, and whatever dessert somehow ended up in front of you, can add close to 1 kilogram of scale weight before a single gram of actual fat is stored. Research published in the journal Obesity tracked 48 adults over a full year and found that participants consistently gained scale weight on weekend days, but recovered it during weekdays. The Monday number looked like a catastrophe. By Wednesday, it was mostly gone. The real problem is not the 2 heavy days. The real problem is the story you tell yourself about those 2 days. The one that turns a normal weekend into a week-long disaster because you decided the whole thing was already ruined by Saturday night. So what is actually creating the surplus? Because it is not random bad luck, and it is definitely not a personal character flaw, no matter how much Monday morning feels like a confession. A 2015 analysis of NHANES data covering 5,770 US adults found that Saturday was the single highest calorie day of the week, consistently associated with an increase of 181 calories compared to weekdays. The sources were predictable across the entire population: alcohol, sugar-sweetened beverages, restaurant meals, and discretionary foods. At the same time, Saturday showed a measurable drop in protein, fiber, fruits, and vegetables. Same pattern, same day. Across thousands of different people with completely different lives and completely different ideas of a good weekend. The weekend surplus is structural, not personal. And because it is structural, it can be managed with structure. We break it down into 3 levers. Pull these 3 and the weekly math starts working in your favor without you having to become someone who brings their meal prep to a dinner party. Lever 1 is alcohol. And this one does considerably more damage than the calorie count on the label suggests. For a reason most fitness content never bothers to explain properly, probably because it requires actual biology and not just a before and after photo. A standard drink sits at roughly 100 to 150 calories. Fine, not ideal, but manageable. What most people do not know is what alcohol does to fat burning while your body is processing it. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition measured whole body fat oxidation before and after consuming 24 grams of ethanol, roughly 2 standard drinks, and found that fat oxidation dropped by 73% while the alcohol was being metabolized. 73%. Your body treats ethanol as a mild toxin and clears it first, which means fat burning goes on hold for several hours. So on a night where you have 3 or 4 drinks, you're not just adding 300 to 400 liquid calories. You are also creating a multi-hour window where fat burning essentially stops. Then add the late night food that almost always appears after a few drinks, because apparently 2 a.m. is when everyone gets their best ideas about pizza. Add the disrupted sleep that follows, and one social night compounds into a full metabolic setback before Sunday has even started. The fix is not quitting drinking. We are not here to ruin your social life. The fix is picking a ceiling before you leave the house, because the time to make that decision is definitely not after drink number 3. 2 drinks is a reasonable limit for most people who want to keep fat loss moving through the weekend. Make the first one slow, keep sparkling water between rounds, and you cut the metabolic damage roughly in half without changing anything visible about your night. Nobody at the table notices. Your hormones absolutely do. If this is already changing how you think about weekends, hit subscribe because we break this stuff down every single week for people who actually have a life outside the gym. Lever 2 is the restaurant meal. And this is where we consistently see people underestimate their intake by the widest possible margin, not because they're careless, but because restaurants are specifically designed to make you eat more than you planned. The NHANES analysis confirmed that full-service restaurant consumption was significantly higher on Saturdays than any other day of the week. Research on social facilitation of eating, a well-documented phenomenon in behavioral nutrition, shows that meals eaten in groups of 4 or more run between 23 and 48% larger than the same meal eaten alone. The mechanism is simple. Social meals last longer, you are relaxed. Conversation distracts from satiety signals. The bread basket arrives, and suddenly you are 300 calories in before the menu has even been discussed. And restaurant portion sizes are already considerably larger than home portions before any of that kicks in. A meal you would make at home sits at around 500 calories. The equivalent dish at a casual sit-down restaurant lands closer to 800. The gap is invisible when you're enjoying yourself, which is exactly why it shows up on Monday morning looking like 3 pounds of failure. The practical fix is one decision before you order. Pick the protein first and build the rest of the meal around it. Chicken, fish, steak, whatever you actually want, keeps the meal structured from the start. Protein activates satiety hormones faster than carbohydrates or fat, which means you reach fullness earlier, and the spontaneous grazing on shared appetizers, second bread rounds, and the dessert menu that somehow ended up in your hands gets cut naturally. You are not ordering a sad salad to prove a point. You are making one quiet decision before the menus close that shifts the entire calorie profile of the night. Nobody else at the table needs to know it happened. You can still order the pasta, you just anchored it with protein first. Lever 3 is Sunday, and this is the quiet one that destroys more fat loss progress than Friday and Saturday combined. Most people do not even think of Sunday as the problem, but after a heavy Friday and Saturday, Sunday tends to go one of two ways, and both of them are wrong. The first response is aggressive restriction. Barely eating, drinking enough water to float a small boat, white-knuckling it through the day, trying to undo 48 hours of normal human behavior in a single sitting. The second response is extending the weekend mindset into a third consecutive day, because you have already decided the week is a write-off. 3 consecutive high-intake days can erase an entire week of deficit work before Monday morning arrives. A 300-calorie daily deficit through the week builds a 1,500-calorie deficit by Friday. Eating just 400 calories above maintenance on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday wipes that entire deficit out completely. That math does not care how hard you worked Monday through Thursday. The aggressive Sunday restriction approach is equally counterproductive and arguably more damaging long-term. Severe restriction spikes cortisol, your primary stress hormone, which signals the body to hold on to fat, particularly around the midsection, while simultaneously breaking down muscle. So the harder you try to punish yourself on Sunday, the more your body fights back by protecting its fat stores. You are hungry, miserable, and your hormones are actively working against you at the same time. Not exactly the comeback arc you were hoping for. The better move is what we call a Sunday reset, not a Sunday punishment. The goal is not to undo Saturday. Human physiology does not work that way, and trying to force it is how people develop a genuinely terrible relationship with food. The goal is simply to return to a normal day as quickly and as calmly as possible. Normal protein intake, normal meal timing. A walk outside, 7,000 to 10,000 steps, burns 200 to 300 calories, actively lowers cortisol instead of spiking it, and requires absolutely no recovery time or gym equipment, just legs, which you already have. A retrospective cohort study published in PMC analyzing 7,007 adults using a weight loss app over 5 months found that participants with balanced caloric intake between weekdays and weekends lost 1.82% more body weight over the study period than those with large weekend surpluses. That does not sound like a big number until you compound it across 24 weeks. That gap is not willpower. That gap is Sunday recovery. The single highest leverage Sunday habit is protecting your sleep schedule. Going to bed and waking at your normal weekday times on Sunday night directly sets the metabolic tone for the entire following week. Your fat-burning hormones operate on a circadian clock, and research published in Frontiers in Endocrinology confirmed that diet-induced thermogenesis, the calories your body burns digesting food, is measurably higher in the morning than in the evening based on your circadian rhythm. Stay up until 2 a.m. watching whatever series you have been saving and sleep until noon on Sunday, and you start Monday with suppressed fat-burning efficiency before you have eaten a single meal. The weekend is not just about what you eat, it is also about when you sleep. Here's the mental reframe that makes all of this click. The weekend is not a cheat period. It is not a reward for 5 days of compliance. It is just 2 days of your life, and those 2 days belong to the same weekly calorie equation as the other 5. The Lose It app study tracking 7,007 adults over 5 months found that women who kept weekend intake within 50 calories of their weekday intake lost 1.82% more body weight than those with large weekend surpluses, not because they were more disciplined, because they stopped doing math on a 5-day week and pretending the other 2 did not count. You're absolutely allowed to have a full life. The pizza is fine, the drinks are fine. Sunday brunch with the people you actually like is non-negotiable, and nobody here is suggesting otherwise. Manage the alcohol ceiling before you go out. Order protein first at every restaurant meal, and use Sunday to reset quietly instead of either punishing yourself or extending the surplus into a third day. 3 moves. No tracking required. No meals sacrificed. Just enough intention to keep the weekly math compounding in your favor instead of quietly against you. The fitness industry sells complicated weekend protocols because complicated sells programs. What we are giving you is simpler than anything they are charging for, and it is what the research actually supports. Drop a comment and tell us which of these 3 levers is your biggest problem: the drinks, the restaurant meals, or the Sunday spiral. And if you want to know exactly how to structure your weekday eating so your weekend flexibility never threatens your progress, that video is right here.